Hey Prodigy, it's Mr. Jeremy back here again with you to talk about how we're going to start combining the foundational shapes and to create new objects, and again using our mind's eye to translate them onto our canvas and paper. All right, once again we're at our drawing table. We've got some objects that I'm going to show you here, and we're talking again about our foundational shapes, circles, squares, and triangles, and how we can combine them to break down specific objects and translate them into a two-dimensional space. If we looked at this top on, this would look like a rectangle, but we all know it's actually a circular object that is our masking tape. But depending on our perspective, using our mind's eye, we can kind of guess where this is going to be put onto the piece of paper. I could trace this in this form, and I know that I'm going to get a circle, right? But if I were to turn this on its side and just kind of trace it down like this, it's going to become more of a rectangle. Now to flip this and kind of turn it into a three-dimensional space, we're going to just make that circle an oval, put another oval inside, and then we can build a portion of that rectangle off of it and just use our mind's eye to imply that that shape exists in more of a 3D space. We can add some shading in there to show that that space is back behind something else. But again, this is just breaking down these objects and trying to find which shapes combine to make that look like a three-dimensional object. I've got this little mini easel here, and we can see that this is a nice little triangle. If I were to take different colors so we don't get mixed up, I can show you that it's just a series of rectangles combined together to create this triangular shape. And again, we've talked before about how triangles are a nice structure, and just like a ladder, a triangle, or this easel, this mini easel, is used to create this balance. It holds up another object. It's not just going to be falling over because it's got this third part of its base, just like the regular flat triangle. It's nice and strong on this bottom plane. It's not going to tip. It's heavier on the bottom than it is on the top, and that's why we use easels and ladders to kind of balance and hold up other objects. Another thing that is important is to recognize the base of something like the tape is a nice flat, more of a circle than a rectangle. You can also stretch that out into something that is more like a water bottle, or this chapstick that shows up nice for us here is stretching this out. This is much more of, I would consider this a rectangle first and a circle second. But you can get the same shape by creating the rectangle, just like we have here, adding a circle, a portion of the circle to either side, and we've got our chapstick there. It's just the same thing as the tape, it's just stretched in a different form. Now, being able to recognize these shapes in everyday life or in our artistic tools is important for different reasons. This has different contours to it, so we can kind of see where we might cut out a portion of it, and we've got like a circle on the end here. I'll trace it first to show you exactly what I mean. So we get a nice even structure with it here. You can see that it is basically made up of rectangle connected with another rectangle. This might be a circle if you're really breaking it down. And then we've got this full circle here, full circle here. And this is just another rectangle kind of connecting the two. And if we were to clean this up a little bit, we could see rectangle, rectangle, we'll start with the circle down here, and we're only drawing what our mind's eye sees so that we can convey this properly. We know in our mind's eye that these circles are there, but we don't want to show that in our illustration because that would just not make it look like this proper object. But we can kind of imply that those lines are there, they're just a little bit hidden. And this is how we get our paintbrush to look more like a paintbrush as opposed to looking like a set of wheels and squares and shapes put together. So again, keep this in mind when we're trying to break down certain objects out in the world, whether we're looking for triangles, whether we're looking for cylinders, squares, circles, spheres. Let's think about how these can combine together and how we can use them as a skeleton, just like our body has a skeleton underneath the muscle. All shapes have a skeleton underneath with these simpler shapes to build upon and create bigger, larger, more complex objects.